I've noticed with climate change, for example, where they increase taxes and say they will lower greenhouse gases but don't, and safe supply, where they say giving safe hard drugs, but it actually makes it worse. And also gun violence, how they want to stop illegal guns crime, but most of all the crime committed is with illegal guns. Is it called some psychological, like a description of what liberals are doing, where it's all fake, like it's all on the surface, but it never fixes the problem?
What you're describing can be associated with the term virtue signaling. Is- This is when individuals or groups, including political entities, make a show of addressing an issue to appear morally superior or concerned without taking substantial action to solve the underlying problem. It's often seen as a way to gain support or approval without implementing effective solutions. Another concept that might apply is symbolic politics, where actions are taken primarily to create the appearance of addressing an issue rather than making meaningful changes. This can include passing laws or creating programs that look good on the surface but don't have the intended impact. These terms capture the idea of focusing on appearances rather than substantive change, which seems to align with your observations.
It almost seems evil to do, or that they know that people are weak and will believe it, and that hiding the truth is the best kryptonite, that they have to hide the truth. Is this common for liberals and socialists, just to get votes and more money?
It's a challenging issue that can apply to various political ideologies and not exclusively to liberals or socialists. Politicians across the spectrum may engage in such practices to gain votes, maintain power, or secure funding. This behavior can stem from the need to appeal to a broad base or to appear as though they are addressing constituents' concerns, even if the solutions are superficial. The practice of prioritizing appearances over substance can be driven by multiple factors, including: one, electoral incentives. Politicians may focus on short term, visible actions that generate immediate support rather than long term solutions that are harder to communicate and take longer to produce results. Two, media and public perception. The pressure to respond quickly to public opinion and media coverage can lead to actions that are more about managing perceptions than enacting effective policies. Three, complexity of problems. Many issues, such as climate change or gun violence, are complex and require multifaceted, sustained efforts. Simplistic solutions are easier to communicate and can be more appealing to the electorate, even if they don't address the root causes. While it's easy to attribute these actions to a particular political group, it's important to recognize that such behavior can be found across the political spectrum. It's a reflection of the challenges inherent in democratic governance, where balancing immediate public approval with the need for effective long term solutions can be difficult.
Maybe it's more desperate parties that try to distract, that to get those quick wins fast, that do it more of the time than a particular party. Agree?
Yes, that makes sense. Desperate parties, or those facing significant political pressure or dwindling support, might be more inclined to pursue quick, superficial wins to regain or maintain their standing. This can happen across the political spectrum, regardless of ideology. The focus in such cases often shifts to immediate gains and managing public perception rather than addressing complex issues with long term solutions. It reflects the urgency and pressure to show progress or responsiveness, even if the underlying problems remain unresolved.
Let's do the gun violence one. How many people died of a gunshot in Canada in 1 year? Pick a year, a recent year.
In 2022, Canada reported 874 homicides, of which 342 were firearm related. This means approximately 41% of all homicides involved a firearm. The firearm related homicide rate has been on an upward trend, with a notable portion committed using handguns. Overall, firearm related violent crime has also increased, reaching a rate of 36.7 incidents per 100,000 population, marking an 8.9% increase from the previous year. This data reflects broader concerns about gun violence in Canada and highlights the complexity of addressing such issues. While some measures aim to reduce illegal gun use, the persistence of violence involving firearms suggests that more comprehensive and effective strategies are needed.
You know, those 800 or so deaths from gun violence in Canada, do you know how many were committed with illegal guns? And I doubt you have this information, but can you find it? How many of those 800 are committed with illegal guns? That means no license.
In 2022, there were 874 homicides reported in Canada, of which 342 involved firearms. However, detailed information specifically identifying how many of these firearm related homicides were committed with illegal guns, i.e., guns without a license, is not readily available from the sources reviewed. Generally, it's known that a significant portion of gun crimes involve illegal firearms, but precise statistics on the legal status of the guns used in these homicides for that specific year are not detailed in the publicly available reports. Research and expert opinions suggest that a majority of gun crimes are committed using illegally obtained firearms. This pattern is consistent with global trends where illegal firearms are often implicated in violent crimes, highlighting the challenges in addressing gun violence through regulatory measures alone. For more detailed and specific data, further research or official reports might be necessary, potentially from law.
Okay, is it
Sorry, I'm
no,
having issues right now. Could not understand what you said.
is it easy to find out if it's an illegal gun or not? I would think it's in three groups. It has a serial number. It matches to someone who has it legally in Canada. There's a serial number that does not match to anyone in Canada, and one that are sanded down. Wouldn't getting this information be easy?
Determining whether a firearm used in a crime is illegal typically involves several steps and can fall into the categories you mentioned. Here's a general outline of the process. 1. Serial number check. Legally registered. If the firearm has a serial number that matches a registered owner in Canada, it is considered legal. No match found. If the serial number does not match any registered owner in Canada, the gun is likely smuggled or otherwise obtained illegally. Altered or removed serial number. Firearms with sanded down or altered serial numbers are often illegal and can indicate attempts to obscure the gun's origin. 2. Trace requests. Law enforcement agencies often request trace information from databases like the Canadian Firearms Information System, CFIS, or international databases if the gun might be from another country. 3. Forensic examination. Forensic teams examine the firearm for alterations, modifications, or any signs that could help determine its origin and legality. 4. Ballistics and crime labs. Detailed analysis in ballistics and crime labs can sometimes provide additional information on the firearm's history, use in previous crimes, and manufacturing details. Challenges in the process. Incomplete records. Not all firearms are registered, and some records might be incomplete or inaccurate. International smuggling. Many illegal guns are smuggled from countries with less stringent gun control laws, complicating trace efforts. Technological limitations. Sanded down serial numbers can be difficult to recover, although advanced forensic techniques can sometimes restore them. Example process. The process is generally thorough, but not always straightforward. Law enforcement uses various techniques and databases to trace firearms, but due to the complexity and potential international origins of illegal guns, it can be challenging. Sources. Public Safety Canada. They provide guidelines and statistics on firearm related crime and the processes involved in tracking illegal firearms. Statistics Canada offers data and analysis on firearm related homicides and violent crimes, including some insights into the origins of the firearms used. While the fundamental processes and categories you mentioned are correct, the actual implementation can be resource intensive and complex, requiring cooperation between various agencies and sometimes international partners.
Well, I wasn't saying track it down to what country it came from. I'm just saying if there's a serial number and it matches the database that Canada itself owns, then it is someone who has a license for it. Everything else should be separated. This seems very easy to get. Why do you think the government doesn't show that information? Because they know that it is like 95% committed with illegal guns.
Determining whether a firearm used in a crime is legal or illegal based on its serial number and registration status within a national database, like Canada's, does indeed sound straightforward in theory. However, the reality of law enforcement and data reporting can be more complex. Reasons for lack of public data: 1. Data sensitivity and privacy. Information about specific firearms and their legal.
I'm just saying just a count in any year where there were homicides. Has the government ever known how many of those murders were committed with a gun that had a license in Canada at any time in the last 100 years?
While it might seem like a simple task to provide a count of how many homicides were committed with legally owned guns, in practice, this data is not always publicly available or straightforward to extract. However, some insights can be gathered from various sources and historical data. Availability of data: 1. Historical reporting. Canada has not consistently reported the specific legal status of firearms used in homicides. The focus of crime statistics has often been broader, categorizing crimes by types of weapons, e.g., firearms, knives, rather than the legal status of those weapons. 2. Recent data trends. Recent reports, such as those from Statistics Canada, indicate an increase in firearm-related homicides, but do not always specify the legal status of the firearms involved. For example, in 2022, there were 342 firearm-related homicides, but the proportion of these involving legally owned versus illegal firearms is not detailed in public reports. 3. Law enforcement insights. Law enforcement agencies often possess detailed data on the firearms involved in crimes, including whether they were legally owned. However, this information is typically used for investigative purposes and may not be systematically reported in public crime statistics. Challenges and considerations: data privacy and sensitivity. Detailed information on the legal status of firearms used in crimes could involve sensitive personal data, which
I was only asking for a count. I didn't need to know personal information. Why don't you give me three memes to show how ridiculous this is again, that the government can never tell you if the gun with the serial number matches the Canadian database. And it almost looks like they are deliberately hiding that information because it only takes 800 of these incidents a year for them to talk about it and to take 20% of our time for the politicians to keep bringing this up. So give me three memes, grade 7 level, to describe the hypocrisy.
Sure, here are three memes to illustrate the frustration with the government's lack of transparency regarding the legality of firearms used in homicides. Meme 1: The Serial Number Saga. Image: a cartoon of a detective looking frustrated at a computer screen, showing a gun with a visible serial number when it only takes a second to check a serial number, but the government keeps us in the dark. Transparency needed. Meme 2: The Annual Mystery. Image: a calendar with the year 2022 circled and a politician speaking at a podium. Every year, 800 gun homicides. And we still don't know how many were legal. Why the mystery, government? Questions unanswered. Meme 3: The Data Disappearing Act. Image: a magician pulling a disappearing act with a data chart. Text: how does the government magically make gun data disappear? Maybe because it reveals too much truth. Where is the data? These memes aim to highlight the perceived lack of transparency and the potential for deliberate obfuscation by the government regarding the legal status of firearms used in crimes. They're simple and direct, targeting the inconsistency in data reporting.
Okay, one last thing. Since 2015, has gun deaths increased under Trudeau's watch? So do 2015, 10 years before, and 2015, 10 years ahead. has it increased?
Firearm-related homicides in Canada have indeed increased under Justin Trudeau's tenure as Prime Minister. In 2015, there were 28.6 firearm-related incidents per 100,000 population, and this rate has seen a significant rise since then. By 2022, the rate of firearm-related violent crime had increased to 36.7 incidents per 100,000 population. In terms of the absolute number of firearm-related homicides, in 2015, there were 158 such homicides. By 2022, this number had increased to 342, marking the highest number of firearm-related homicides since homicide data collection began in 1961. This trend reflects a broader rise in violent crime involving firearms, which has been a growing concern in Canada over the past several years. The government and law enforcement agencies are aware of the increase, and it remains a topic of significant public and political discussion.
Thanks. That's it.